Hey Friday, everybody, and welcome to the 12th Horseshoe Podcast. Alongside Jack Rizzo, I'm Elijah Weintraub, and we appreciate Jack Rizzo for joining us today. Of course, he has tested positive for COVID, and we congratulate him for joining us today. Really appreciate it as always, and we have a lot to cover today, and we hope Jack feels better, of course, and we have a lot to cover today. We have a few storylines to go through, and then we have a recap of the Thursday night football game, the Eagles versus Vikings, and of course we have our week 2 predictions all coming up in just a little bit. But before we get into that Thursday night football game, let's get into a few news stories that just happened moments ago from around the league. We just learned moments ago Panthers cornerback Jace Horn has been placed on the injured reserve and will be possibly out, and this injury is not considered to be season-ending injury, unlike Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers today he made his first TV debut since he's torn his Achilles on the Pat McAfee show today on ESPN. So far, from what he said, he quotes, "Give me your doubts and then watch what I do." So he had his surgery; it went well, and we hope that it continues to be in favor. And from what we're hearing, and from what we heard today on the show, if all goes well in with the rehab and everything, we could see him possibly towards the last week, or even if the playoffs, if the Jets seem to make it, which could give some Jets fans a little bit more hope than there already should be. So that is awesome news to hear. And that is most of the news for now. Let's get right into the 12th Horseshoe podcast. And
Thank you, Sarah.
yes,
Really appreciate it. I appreciate you as always. Not feeling too bad right now. Just getting through it. But yeah, let's get right into the picks. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
absolutely. Before we get to the picks, the Vikings took the loss yesterday to the Philadelphia Eagles. Final score 34-28. And it was an interesting game all around for sure. The Eagles played another close game like they did last week with the Patriots. Very well deserved it, especially in front of their home crowd. Touchback was an issue which we never thought would see coming, and that was on the Vikings. Justin Jefferson with the catch. He loses control of the ball under the pylon, crosses the end zone line for a touchback, which usually don't see too often, and here it is and happened. The Eagles took the victory. They entered the season 2-0, surprisingly, regardless of how well they messed up, and I guess you could say, or had close chances at times. And Jack, what are your thoughts so far on this Eagles team?
Well, first off, I was watching the game last night. It was crazy. The Vikings lost 4 fumbles yesterday, and they only lost by 6. The offense moved the ball really well. Honestly, if they could just stop fumbling, they'd be 2-0. They would be. And it's pretty ironic because last year they went 11-0 in one-score games, and early on in the season they are 0-2. Next week is a must-win for them at home against the Chargers. Eagles still not really playing to their fullest, but hey, they're 2-0, and tough, good teams, they win the games that they're not supposed to win. So, an interesting game. I think the Vikings are going to bounce back and be maybe not as good as last year, but between like an 8 to 10 win team. And the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender. And Eli, that was your lock of the week, and you got it right. So you were
Yes, it was the lock of the week, and we both did get the pick right for the Eagles win yesterday. The scores were obviously wrong, which we never expect them to be right anyways. But yes, we did get that right, and that is a very good week to start. What I could say is the Eagles definitely are a very strong team, but they do slack off at times where it looks like they should have lost. And for the Vikings side, they need them. It's a must-win next week versus this Chargers team. And if they do lose against the Chargers, it does say a lot. And yet again, this Chargers team is also going to be under a lot of pressure too, as they come off of a loss to the Miami Dolphins, which was a crazy game last week. And we'll see how they can continue their effort and goals in the next upcoming weeks. And in the meantime, now let's get into our week 2 picks, as there is a lot on the line. We will provide you the survivor, upset, and Jack's lock of the week at the end of our picks. And we'll start off with the Packers-Falcons game. It's going to be 1 p.m. on Fox. And I'm going to have the Packers winning 22-16 over the Falcons.
Yeah, it's a good. Packers were probably the team. Excuse me, the team that impressed me the most last week out of every team. I thought the fact that they won by 18 on the road against a Bears team that I think is going to be a lot better this year, really impressive. Jordan Love had a great game, but I think the Falcons are going to win this game 28-27. I think that this rushing duo, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, is lethal. I think the Falcons just are more well coached. Their defense played fantastic last weekend. Only allowed 10 points to the Panthers. Jesse Bates, NFC Defensive Player of the Week, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, only allowed 10 points to the Panthers, and their defense really surprised me. We know their offense is going to score a lot of points. Their defense can play like the way they did last week. Um, I really like this Falcons team, but I feel really good right now about the NFC South pick. By the way, the Falcons are the 1.5 point favorites at home. So Eli, you have an upset, and I am going with the Falcons to not cover the spread because they're winning by 1, not 1.5. So the Packers are going to cover the spread, but I have got the Falcons winning, and they're going to be 2-0 for the first time since I believe 2017. So
All right.
good for them.
He's
Yep.
He's going with the 2-0 Falcons if the Falcons do get the win. I see the Packers because they really played a very well game with the Bears and are definitely a huge contender in this NFC, especially without Aaron Rodgers. Could this lead to success for them? For the Falcons, I don't know how much faith I have in them. Obviously, against the Panthers last week was a great game, obviously, and Bijan Robinson is a great player. But we'll see how well that executes coming up to the rest of the future games when you're not playing teams like Carolina. And we'll get into our next game now. The Raiders take on the Bills at CBS 1 p.m. I'm going with the Bills 24-21, despite some struggle with the Jets last week. I feel like the Bills can do it. The Raiders played a very well game against the Broncos. However, I don't think that they're going to execute against a very well team of the Bills. But yet again, it just takes one wrong mistake from Josh Allen to mess up this team.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me. I also have the Bills winning. Week 1 was pretty rough, but again, it's week 1. A lot of teams looked rough last week. I got a pretty close game though, 20-14. Both of these defenses played extremely well last week, and I think the reason why the Bills are going to win is just because again they're at home, Bills Mafia, and Jimmy G was injured this week in practice. Jacoby Myers, who had both touchdowns last week for the Raiders, is not going to play on Sunday. He's been ruled out with a concussion. Other than Devontae Adams, who exactly is Jimmy G going to throw to on this Raiders offense? Bills defense, one of the best in the league. Josh Allen is going to limit the turnovers this week. Bills 20-14, closer game than you might think, especially considering that they are an 8-point favorite. But I can't see the Bills starting 0-2, Eli.
Absolutely, and we'll see how it plays out on Sunday. The next game up on the list is the Ravens versus the Bengals, CBS at 1 p.m. I'm taking the Ravens on this pick here. Well, I don't trust Joe Burrow in this Cincinnati Bengals team. Joe Burrow played one of the worst opening week 1 games, and by far one of the worst games that we've seen in Joe Burrow in a while. And this could be because of the money, like I said, and also because the rain. The rain absolutely had a factor in that game, but we'll see how much of a factor this game will be and become for this Cincinnati team. So I'm taking the Ravens to win 30-10. I have a lot more faith in this Ravens team than I do with Cincinnati, considering the fact that Cincinnati pulled one of the most interesting games by far of all time.
You know, what was your final score again for the game?
Ravens 30-10.
Wow. Okay. Well, something you might not know about last week is that the Texans actually outgained the Ravens in total yards. The Texans had more total yards than the Ravens did last week. Really, the Ravens they won by 16, which was a nice win, but they definitely struggled on offense. Defense, they were fantastic, but again, the Texans had more total yards than the Ravens on Sunday. So what is that really saying? The Bengals, I think, are going to bounce back and win 27-20 at home. They are the 3-point favorites. I think last week was sort of an anomaly. Again, it was raining. Cleveland, Joe Burrow's had a tough time playing against the Browns. Defense is really good. And again, I think the rain played a factor, and Burrow might have not been 100% because of the calf. I think he's going to get healthier this week. I just don't know if the Ravens are going to be able to slow down the Bengals because, again, it's one thing to slow down the Texans offense, but it's a whole other thing to slow down Joe Burrow and three of the best receivers, the best trio of receivers in the NFL. So Bengals 27-20. I can't see the Bengals starting 0-2. But it should be a fun game. Great AFC North battle. I think these are going to be two teams that both will make the playoffs this year. But give me the Bengals at home against Baltimore.
Yes, I agree. This is going to be a great battle in that AFC. And moving along to the NFC, which showed some surprise, the Seahawks versus the Detroit Lions, one of the biggest games for Detroit coming up as they enter their first home game following a victory to Kansas City on the opening game of the NFL last week. That game is Fox at 1 p.m. And I am taking the Seahawks to win 28-27. Now, I am aware of what happened with Seattle last week, how bad they played. And I think that with some time off and with Detroit being super hyped now, this is the time for Seattle to wake up, to smell the coffee, and to win the game. And that is why I'm choosing the Seahawks to win 2027. And however, I do not have them as my upset because I don't think that's an upset. Your mic's muted.
Well, Eli, the Seahawks allowed over 100 yards receiving to guys last week named Puka Nakua and Tutu Atwell. So how many yards are they going to allow when they have to play Amon-Ra St. Brown this week, who might be arguably a top 5 receiver in the league? No, I'm not exaggerating that. Lions 34-17 at home. That is a pretty comfortable win. The Seahawks looked bad last week against the Rams team that didn't have Cooper Kupp. And the Lions are a much better team than the Rams are. The Lions are at home in front of their fans. They just went on the road and beat the best quarterback in the world. So now what are they going to do at home against the Seahawks team that didn't even look like a playoff team last week? They looked like one of the worst teams in the NFC last week. Got blown out at home by the Rams. So now they're going to have to go on the road to face the Lions. Again, this is a different Lions team from years past. And I'm surprised the Lions are only a 4.5 point favorite and not more. But Lions 34-17. That is my pick.
Well, there's two things I have to add for that. The much more worse game than that, which I don't feel too bad about, is the Giants game, 40-0. Really, and that one field goal made, that was another joke, but whatever. But that was last week. But we'll get into that later on and more into detail with the Giants later on. I thought that was the worst game, but hey, I'm aware that they had a lot of struggle, especially with Cooper Kupp being out, that should have been an easy win. However, I have Seahawks because I have to have faith in them. And I know how it's been working with all this hype, and it's been backfiring a lot lately. So we'll see how it continues on. And the next game on the list is the Colts taking on the Texans. Fox at 1 p.m. I'm going with the Colts to win it 24-10.
Wow, that's thank you for that, Eli. I'm glad you think the Colts are going to win by that much. Now, I also have the Colts winning this game. I think they just played a lot better than the Texans last week. C.J. Stroud is now questionable for this game with a shoulder injury. That is not good. Even if he does play, might not be at 100%. I think this game's going to be a little closer than you're saying. I've got 24-21, a close win. But I think what's going to happen is the Texans are going to score like a last-minute touchdown to make it look closer than it really is. But the Texans have the possibility to be without 4 of their 5 starters on the offensive line. This Colts front 7 had 4 sacks last week. They can have double that if the Texans are missing basically their whole offensive line. The receivers are going to get open. They're going to run the ball better, especially with Zach Moss coming back. The Texans are the 1 point favorite at home. But I think the Colts win this game and Anthony Richardson gets his first win as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, we'll see if they can get it. And now moving on to one of the most anticipated games that is not a 4 o'clock game. It's the Chiefs versus the Jaguars, 1 p.m. on CBS. I have the Jaguars winning this game 24-21. I really like this Jaguars team. They played really well against this Colts. Again, the Colts did an interesting game last week. They played it well. But the Chiefs, however, if you look at them, they struggled, especially without Travis Kelce. And we'll see if he does play this weekend or not. And I have the Jaguars winning this game for sure, 24-21. And I think it'd be a close game by a field goal.
Well, to answer your question, Travis Kelce and Chris Jones are both going to play this Sunday against the Jags. This is going to surprise some people. I've got the Chiefs winning 31-17, a 14-point win. People are going to think that's crazy, but again, the Chiefs are not going to start 0-2. They always bounce back after the next week. They never, when they look as bad, again, they've only lost by 1 last week against the Lions, and that was probably as bad as they're ever going to look. They're going to bounce back against the Jags, especially with Travis Kelce coming back. The Colts front 7 got a lot of pressure on the Jags last week. Chiefs are going to continue to do the same. Chris Jones is going to have 2.5 sacks in his return. Trevor Lawrence is going to be frustrated with turnovers, and the Jags defense will not be able to get any stops. Chiefs 31-17. And I feel confident about the Chiefs winning as well.
And he feels confident too. That's all he's at, what matters. The next game coming up is on Fox, 1 p.m. The Bears take on the Buccaneers. I was very impressed with that Buccaneers team, especially beating this Vikings team. And I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win it 20-17, and we'll see how it plays out against this Bear teams who, again, played a great game. But again, Joe Burrow and Cincinnati were not their usual self. And we'll give Jack a moment. And before we get to his pick in.
Did you just say Joe Burrow and Cincinnati? We're talking about the Bears, Eli, not the Bengals.
I'm saying when the Bears play Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals.
When did that? No, they played the Browns played them. Okay.
Wrong B team.
let's just move on. I forgot to mention the Chiefs are a 3.5-point favorite against the Jags. In this game, I've got the
That's really
upset. I've got the
embarrassing.
Bears winning on the road, 17-14. I know they looked bad last week against Green Bay, but again, it's week one. I think Justin Fields is going to be able to run the ball really well this week against Tampa Bay. I think the Bears defense is going to look a lot better. The Bucs offense didn't really look that great last week. I think the Bears defense is better than the Vikings. I think the Bears defense is going to improve this season. I know it did look great last week, but I think it's just going to be one of those like low scoring affairs. And I like the Bears. I think the Bucs week one win was a little bit of an anomaly. I think it's just gonna be like bad luck for the Vikings this year. But give me Chicago, 17-14. And by the way, rain might be a factor in that game. It might rain, and it's gonna be potentially up to 90 degrees. So some interesting conditions down there in Tampa, Florida this Sunday.
Absolutely. That'll be interesting conditions for sure. And the final 1 o'clock game is on CBS, and it'll be the Chargers versus the Titans. And now that's a very interesting game because remember, the Chargers come off of a a loss to the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins team, they played very well. And this Chargers team did too. But unfortunately, at the end, they couldn't execute it well. And this Titans team is coming off of an interesting loss to the Saints by a point, and we'll see what they can present to the table in this upcoming game. However, I'm taking the Chargers to win 28-15. I think it'll be a high-scoring game, especially knowing how great the game went last week for the Chargers, and I think the success is going to continue on for this team.
So I actually just changed my pick or my score prediction because Austin Eckler is doubtful for Sunday's game. So I still have the Chargers winning. I had them winning before 31-16. Now I have them winning 25-19. So a lot closer, especially with Austin Eckler not playing. That is a huge loss. That probably the best. You could argue the best player on this team. Period. Chargers are the 2.5-point favorites on the road. Tennessee looked pretty bad last week. Did not score a touchdown. But again, knowing the way the Chargers play, they're going to find a way to make this game close. But I have them pulling it out 25-19. And I think they will get just enough of Joshua Kelly to be able to pull out this win on the road.
All right, we'll see for sure. And now it's an interesting matchup. The Giants, coming off of a 40-0 loss to the Cowboys, play the Cardinals, who almost had a victory, losing by only 4 points to the Washington Commanders. And they play 4 or 5 p.m. on Fox. I have the Giants winning 22-18. If they don't win this game, this New York Giants team, then they're out for sure, especially against this Cardinals team. And if the Cardinals get their first win, then they're a competition regardless of what people say. But I think the Giants are the team to beat this week against the Arizona Cardinals.
If the Giants lose this game, I might not pick them to win another game the rest of the season.
I agree 100%.
Giants 23, Cardinals 3. I think they're going to really come out. They're going to be motivated from last week's performance, and they're going to go out there performing. This is a must-win for the Giants because they have to go on the road to San Francisco on a short week next Thursday. So if they don't win this game, I think it's very, very likely that they will start 0-3 and pretty much already ruin their playoff chances, especially playing in a strong division like the one they play in. But I think the Giants get a much-needed win on Sunday. Again, 23-3, low-scoring game.
Very low-scoring game, yes, and indeed. And now the divisional matchup of the NFC West. The 49ers taking on the Rams from SoFi Stadium. Fox at 4:05 p.m. I am going to take the 49ers. The 49ers are the better team. The Rams played well against Seattle, but I don't know how much they'll be able to execute, especially against this 49ers team. And I'm having a very close but high-scoring game. SoFi Stadium is going to be a crazy back-to-back high-scoring game weekend. I'm taking the 49ers to win 35-34.
The 49ers have won each of their last 8 games against the Rams in the regular season. Again, Rams played great last week, but I'm not sure if that was an anomaly or if they're not good. Either way, I'm still taking the 49ers, 34-21. Feel pretty good about this one. They played extremely well last week against a really tough Pittsburgh defense and on the road as well. Pretty much every single position player on offense got involved. They're going to continue to do that this Sunday against the Rams. Expect Aaron Donald to be overwhelmed by the 49ers offensive line, even though he doesn't really get that a lot, but Niners offensive line's at a different level. Defense will continue to make some stops. Niners 34, Rams 21. The loss of Cooper Kupp will finally catch up to the Rams this week.
All right, and now a big matchup coming up, and this will be the first big test for Zach Wilson playing a full game. The Zach Wilson, the New York Jets take on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, and CBS had still run promos up as they still had Aaron Rodgers still playing for the Jets this weekend, and that was very interesting. I guess they forgot to update the graphics on certain of the radio stations, so CBS, you might want to update those. Yeah, so the Jets take on the Cowboys 4:25 p.m. on CBS. Huge game coming up for this Jets team. However, I think the Cowboys are going to take the victory 30-22. They looked really good with that New York Giants team last week. And playing New York Jets with Zach Wilson for the first time is going to show a lot. And remember, this team is so used to running plays with Aaron Rodgers that they're going to now have to adjust to plays with Zach Wilson. And of course, time is going to be a big factor, and we'll see how it plays out. And of course, the weather was not the greatest this week here in Jersey, so the practices are going to be an issue, and we'll see how they play. And they just come off of a game on Monday, so they have less than 6 days to practice before taking the travel to Dallas.
That's a pretty high-scoring game, Eli, for two of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. Two defenses that combined to allow just 16 points last week. But yeah, Cowboys win 24-10. Feel pretty good about it.
So you had a score change. You originally had 35-14. You changed it.
Yeah, I did change it. It's on our thing. But yeah, 20. I realize that these are two of the best defenses, so I can't have that many points.
Right, absolutely.
Cowboys are now an 8.5 point favorite. I feel pretty good about this one as well. Again, is Zach Wilson really going to go into Dallas and beat that Cowboys defense? And I think Dak's going to have a better game. I think the offense is going to get the ball moving, and the defense and special teams is going to have to do everything. So Cowboys win 24-10, relatively comfortable win. And as much as I hate to say it, the Cowboys are going to be 2-0 in 2023.
It's hard to say, but it's true. And now a team where Sean Payton is their coach and a quarterback of Russell Wilson. And a team where they have a new general manager, but yes, they still found some struggle. The Washington Commanders take on the Denver Broncos. And as you may have known from the show, I'm not a huge fan of Russell Wilson, in case you new to the show. So I am going to obviously take the Commanders to win this game 18-15. Sorry, Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos.
Are you going to pick the Broncos to win any games this year, Eli?
If they play the Texans or the Cardinals, then yes, I will
okay.
Win.
Well, sorry, your pick is wrong because the Broncos are going to win 10-7, a very, very low scoring game. Both these offenses kind of suck, and both defenses are really good. So a pretty obvious one here. A really low scoring game. Broncos at home, though. That's a tough place to go in and play. 10-7. Broncos win. And
the Raiders did it from Broncos territory last year. Last game.
That was a fluke. That's week one. You never know what you're gonna get in week one.
Clearly, and week 2 for the Denver Broncos. Okay, let's move right along. The NBC game at night, 8:20 for Sunday Night Football. The Dolphins take on the Patriots. I have the Dolphins winning 31-21. The Dolphins are the better team. They played well against the Chargers, and I feel like they're going to succeed against the Patriots. And I have Tua in instead of Joe Burrow for my fantasy teams this week, so I really need the Dolphins to win.
The Patriots were probably the most impressive team last week that lost. They only lost by 5 to the Eagles. They definitely could have won that game. The offense looked way more fluent with Bill O'Brien as the coach. Defense played well in the second half, and Foxborough's tough place to come in. Give me the Patriots in the upset, 34-31. That's still a lot of points for the Dolphins, but at the end, the defense is going to slow down Tua. Mac Jones and the offense are going to do just enough at home on Sunday night. Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time. Patriots will go to 1-1 and take this win by a final score of 34-31. That's gonna be a pretty fun game on Sunday night. It's a high scoring game. So
all right, and now we enter our double header Monday night games. We'll start off with the first one, 7:15 p.m. on ESPN. The Saints take on the Panthers. I have the Saints winning 20-14. Saints look like the better team last week, and against that Titans team, and the Panthers. They struggled, and I don't know how great of a team they will be. I know they have a great quarterback, and I know they're trying to rebuild, but I think the Saints are the better team and are going to take the victory for this coming Monday.
Panthers 24, Saints 22. Panthers pull off the upset at home on Monday night. Bryce Young gets his first career win. Saints offense struggled last week. Panthers have a pretty good defense. So I think at home, I think Bryce Young's going to get his first win. I think the offense, I think he's going to limit the turnovers. I don't know. I mean, as good as the Saints, Derek Carr was solid last week, but I can never trust Derek Carr. And again, it's the Saints have lost each of their last 2 games on the road in Carolina. So give me the Panthers 24-22 and Bryce Young winning his first game in the Bryce Young era.
All right, we'll see how it goes for them. And the final Monday night game will be on ABC at 8:15 p.m. The Browns take on the Steelers. I got the Browns winning 27-14. They were the better team last week. And now I got the team right for when they played the Bengals. So I have them winning 27-14 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, who look just horrible versus that 49ers team.
So we will disagree on all three of the remaining primetime games in week 2.
All right.
Steelers win 19-16. I know they looked bad last week. I know. But you want to know the last time the Browns went on the road and beat the Steelers at Heinz Field in the regular season? 2003. That was the last time the Cleveland Browns beat the Steelers on the road in the regular season. That was also the last time the Steelers had a losing season in the NFL. So let's bring that streak to 20 straight wins in the regular season at home for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Kenny Pickett's gonna have a better game. The Browns offense really didn't look that good last week. They just got some good field position. The 24 points I think was a bit of an anomaly. Give me the Steelers at home in a low-scoring affair, 19-16. This could even be a game that goes into overtime, but we'll have to see.
All right, we'll see how it goes for them. And now, just to remind everybody before we get to our Survivor upset and lock of the week, the recap of the records from last week. Jack went 6-10, and I went 9-7 in the picks. I went 3-0 when it comes to Survivor, lock, and upset. Jack, I believe you went 1-2, if I'm not mistaken, or
yes, I got the Ravens lock pick right, but I picked the Vikings and Survivor, which was bad. And I thought the Steelers were going to upset the 49ers. That was also a bad pick. But let's hope I do better this week.
All right, so now let's get into those 3 picks as we close out the show. As you mentioned, if you watched our show on Tuesday, I had the Eagles as the lock of the week, so that is already a 1 win for me. So to get to my final 2, for my Survivor, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts, and for my upset, Jacksonville over Kansas City.
Well, I'm hoping you go to 2-0 on Survivor, but so my lock, I'm going with the Cowboys over the Jets. I feel really good about that game. Just don't think there's any way Zach Wilson's going into Dallas and beating the Cowboys defense. Especially if the Giants offense, which is way better, couldn't score a single point. My Survivor pick, I am going with, I had the Chargers at first, but now that Austin Eckler is not playing, I have switched it. I'm going with the Bills. I know that's a big team to pick early, but I'm trying to survive people. And for my upset, New England Patriots. I really hope that the Patriots prove themselves because I have them as one of my playoff teams this year. And with the way they played last week, they honestly look like a playoff team, even though they're 0-1.
So he's really trying to get a win in those picks, and good for you, Jack, on those picks. And that will do it for today's Week 2 picks in the NFL. As a reminder, join us next Tuesday for the recap of Week 2 in the NFL as we break down the recap of all the Sunday games plus the doubleheader Monday night games. And as a reminder, join me tomorrow for Sports and Mano Mano at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. And, of course, I will be on the call for the St. Mary football game as they take on the Butler Bulldogs tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Coverage beginning at 12:40 p.m. Jack, I appreciate you for joining us for joining the show today. Kudos to you once more. Hope you feel better. And I'll be on the call, and it'll be a fun game tomorrow for sure.
Appreciate it, Eli. You're the man. Thank you. Yep. So make sure y'all go listen to Eli tomorrow on the broadcast. We might have another person fill in for me tomorrow, but if not, then it'll just be Eli. But Eli's good enough on his own. So
thank you. And we'll see who we can get.
Regardless. Yep. So hope you guys all have a wonderful night and a great week too.
Yes.
Physically not really feeling the best, but mentally feeling awesome because football is we got another great weekend of football on the way.
Absolutely. What can you complain about that? Football is back, and Week 2 continues this weekend. We'll see you tomorrow for Sports Mano Mano. I'll see you tomorrow for Sports Mano Mano and the St. Mary football game coverage beginning at 12:40. Have a good night, everyone.